Good morning. This is Grandma Lois inviting you all to come to my table talk today. We have some interesting things to talk about, or at least I'm interested in it. But I have a verse that I picked up down at the Y this morning, and this is what it says. And I have read this one before, but it is so important because if we do what this says, we're going to make it. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding. Because if we lean on the Lord, He figures it out. In all your ways, submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. That's right here. This is from the Bible, the Holy Scriptures. So relax, sit down a while. Now, this morning, everything is back on schedule, and you know how we like our schedules. And I've got my coffee this morning, and it's still warm. And I want to tell you all a lot of stuff. But we are, and I'm going to tell you now right off the top, we're so excited about that Honda. That it's an Element, and it's as square as a box. They quit making them in 2011, and I want to tell you about my Aunt Mary, and I'm going to get to that, who was such a wonderful aunt to me. I have had several people that really talk about influencers. Okay, as I was coming out of the Y this morning, I just did a little video to say hello, and I was standing there talking, and saying, it's tough titty, said the kitty, but the milk's still good, which means the exercise is still good for you, and it is. And so this man and woman was entering in, and I said, well, I was just doing a little video. He said, are you an influencer? I said, yes, I guess I am. I said, with 70,000 followers, maybe I can influence some people in the right path. We sure talk about it a lot, don't we? So this morning we got our coffee, and guess what? Well, do you see this right there? That's that little microphone, and it's supposed to be working. I think I finally figured it out. I have worked with them. Those, hey, hey, Pat, it can be done. You just wait till the little lights quit flashing. Now, I did it the other day when the lights were flashing, and the lights has got to be steady. And I got one here, and I got one over there. I think y'all are going to hear me good. So, first thing I want to show you, James came in the other day, and he said, look what I got for you, honey. You can use it on your YouTube. He's very supportive. He don't watch anymore, and so I can talk about him behind his back if I want to. And sometimes I want to. So this is a very, well, you can see through it there. It's a very patriotic hat, red, white, and blue. And I don't have a flower in my hair, so I don't have no trouble putting it on my head. Here, let me do that. I'm setting my coffee aside. Let's see how we look patriotic this morning. And I tell you what, if you want to, just sit in that chair right back there and put your coffee right on that table right there. And I went back to my TV this morning and hunted up a picture that has some orange in it. I am crazy about orange, but this is red, white, and blue. But the new Element piece of junk, no, it ain't junk. It's 2003. We bought a pig in a poke. We didn't take it for a drive or anything. We just liked it. And the price was right. So, did we buy a pig in a poke? I'm going to let y'all know about it later, whether it is what it looks like, because it's all clean inside, and it's, what do you think? What's that in front? That's not the price tag. Nope. There we go. No, that Element is orange. And I just wanted some orange stuff this morning. So I looked on YouTube till I found something orange in the background. And this is that hat. What do you think? Well, it's pretty cute. How shall I wear it? As I talk to y'all this morning and tell you what I know, I may take it off. I'm going to give it back to James, let him wear it, I think. It fits his head, too. He's got a big head, just like when I put my wig on, I have a bigger head. I hope these microphones are working good, Uh, I have tried other things and they never worked. But since I wear hearing aids and I have them turned off and I'm depending on these mics, so we're just going to go for it. Now then, let's get down to business, whatever that is. No, I've been telling you about my aunts that I had when I was a young girl. And Aunt Mary was Daddy's younger sister. I still got my mic. I'm going to fix this so it looks nice. We want to look as nice as we can when we come visit with y'all. You know, company ought to take care of themselves. That's what I say. And maybe I'll just put my flower back in my hair. Hair. Now, I'm from the South. That raised down in Virginia till I was 10 years old. And some of it still hangs on. There's my mic again. So maybe if Pat watches this, she might get her a couple of these. They only run that $14, and the sound is better. Now, I'm going to mention this before I really get started, so y'all hang in there. But old me, better living, has been shouting me out. And on it once, I thought he called me. He showed out. He had a picture on his, because he teaches people how to do, advises them how to do YouTube, which I never knew nothing and I just took off. I never studied anything, but it pays sometimes. And he tells how he went about it. And he's 81 or 2. And he's been a pastor and he's still an associate pastor at some church. And he's very interesting. So he had a picture of a bunch of us senior citizen YouTubers, and I was down in the middle. And he called me, I thought he said Rose, and he did. But later on, and I double checked it, oh well, that's life. We're senior citizens. But later on, he called me Lois, and so I texted him and made a comment that on YouTube I am known as Grandma Lois, and really you can Google me, and I tell people that all the time, or I flip up my phone and let them take a picture, and I'm getting a lot of subscribers. Thank you, thank you. His name is Mike, so thank you, Mike. Old me, living better in our senior years, and that's what some of us are doing. But I love this orange, and that Element Honda Squares box. We pick it up today, sometime this afternoon, and that gentleman said that sold it to us. We never drove it or anything. It was just shiny, and the sun shining on it. Not much, but it looked so good. And we have a 2003 van that we've had a year that we've been driving for a year. Never gave us a bit of trouble. And I researched it. These Hondas can get from 160 to 300,000 miles or something. They last. Fact is, there is a man down on the corner by the name of Tim. He's a lawyer. He's been a friend of mine for years. And he sells cars on the side. And James has bought some from him because James buys cars and sometimes he passes them on to his help or something like that. He's always been a helper. But I asked Tim one time, I said, Tim, how comes you never get no Hondas in to sell on your little car lot? Because he'll only have 2 or 3 at a time. He goes to this car sales and where they sell them, and he'll get 2 or 3 and park them in his yard right on the corner, which is a wonderful place to show them off. So he said, well, Hondas, when you get to the car lot to bid on them, all of them go so high. He said, you don't make that much money on them if you pay a high price. So he sticks with Chryslers and other brands of things. But I was reading about the Honda, and they run for a long time. Well, here it is, almost 10 minutes, and I got to talk. I want to talk about Aunt Mary. Aunt Mary, when I was a little girl, 5 years old, Grandma, her mother, lived over the hill. Not you could see her house from our little red house where we lived in Smith Holler, and that's where we lived. And we lived about a block and a half, 2 blocks from the little Assembly God Church, where I would walk to on a Sunday morning. And Aunt Mandy, her older sister, would be our teacher. Now, Aunt Mary was a whole different ball game. She was the one that would come and get me and take me walking. And one day she took me walking up the holler into this oat field where oats are growing up about knee high, and they're getting ready to make seed. They're getting ready to be cut. And so she said, let's pick some of these and eat them. So I picked one, she picked one, and I don't know how to eat them. I'm 5 years old, you know. So I start chewing on it and eating it and try to swallow it. And you know what happened? A piece of straw got caught in my throat. You don't eat the straw, you eat the little seeds. But I didn't know that. And here, that was stuck there in my throat. So I said, Mary, it ain't going down. So she took me to the house, not far away, the little red house, and told my mom. She says, well, Clarine and I was eating some of those oats growing in the field, and she's got a piece of straw stuck in her throat, and she can't get it out. We don't know what to do. Well, Daddy was not far away, and he had a car. So he loaded me in the car and took me to Rose Hill. There was a doctor over there back then, and that would have been, see, I was 5 years old, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38. That would have been 1938 that doctor was there in Rose Hill. So it's next door to you, Virginia. So he took me over there, and he said, well, my sister and my little girl was out in the oat field, and they were eating oat seeds, and she ate a piece of the straw instead of the oat seeds, and she's got a piece stuck in her throat, and so we need to get it out. So he laid me on the table, the doctor did. He said, open your mouth real wide, stick your tongue out. And he had a pair of something other, and he reached in there and pulled that straw out of my throat that would not go down. It was stuck. It must have caught on, I don't know, but it was there. It wasn't going to go nowhere till it rotted or something. And he pulled it out and he said, y'all can go home. Daddy paid him. We went home. But Mary she taught me a lot of stuff. Don't be eating straws. So we was walking, and there's a creek down through there. And so and it had rained, and it was running about, you know, up half to your knees, not all the way. And we was wading it, and it varied and how deep it was and not. She was walking, I was walking, and all of a sudden I slipped and I fell face down because it was slick and a little muddy. I fell face down. And you know, I have told this before, but little kids, when they go like into shock or something, and I wasn't getting up. So Mary grabbed me and dragged me out of there, and I was a coughing and a spitting and carrying on. It was pitiful. Oh, and so what do we do? My hair is sopping wet because my head went under, and it was so scary. But she got me out. I can still remember it. And so we went on to the house, and of course I have the stringy white, black hair that hangs down to my shoulder that looks terrible. And I was all upset. Mary says, I tell you what we'll do, we'll curl your hair and you're going to look cute. And I've got a picture of that somewhere because Mom took a picture. So Mary took some pieces of Sears and Roebuck catalog and made it folded it together, and then she rolled my hair around that and tied it with a rag. She tore up some rags and tied it, and she says, now when that gets dry, you're going to have curly hair. Well, I couldn't hardly wait for it to dry, you know. I wanted to see that curly hair. I never had curly hair. I had straight hair, straight as a stick. So we waited as long as we could. Mary hung around with Mom, and they talked and everything. And finally I said, let's take it down and look at it. So we took it down. Now one side had dried and the other had not. So one was kind of curled up and the other side was going straight, and they took a picture. And I thought the side that curled was beautiful, wonderful. And they took a picture. Well, that's when I learned you could curl your hair with Sears and Roebuck catalog. You fold it up and make it like thick enough to wrap your hair around it, and then tie it with a rag, and you could curl your hair. I didn't do that anymore. I couldn't do it myself. Aunt Nellie, Daddy's mother's sister, was a beautician. She gave me my first permanent wave when I was 9 years old, and I had frizzy hair just like my friend Debbie, who is Kentucky Life with Debbie YouTube, and she's got that kind of hair that I thought was gorgeous. And she says, my hair, I can't do nothing. What a blessing, Debbie. You got curly hair all the time. She got naturally curly hair. And I had it for a little while, When I went to school, I was 9 years old, and I looked in the mirror and I thought I was adorable. I had such self confidence. I said, but they're not going to know me in the third grade. But you know what? They did know me. But I, just because I kinked up my hair didn't mean I was a different person. Back to Aunt Mary. Now, when I had my first lipstick, which was when I was 12 years old, and our church did not believe in wearing lipstick. If they would preach on it ever so often, that if you wore makeup, you was definitely a Jezebel, which was a real evil woman in the Bible. Queen Jezebel and her husband, King Ahaz. They were evil, evil. And so they would preach on because she painted herself. And you just don't want to be a Jezebel. But at 12 years old, I kind of thought I wanted to take a turn at it. So I didn't have no lipstick, couldn't afford no lipstick. But Aunt Mary was 16, no, or 17. She had lipstick, and she got it because she wore lipstick. Wow, I admired her so tremendously. So what she would do when her lipstick got down to where it didn't go on her lips anymore, she would give me the tube. And if I put my finger down in it a little, then I could get enough to go like that, and I could have lipstick. And I thought, again, see, I have always primped. I thought I looked adorable. I just loved it. And you could take a little and put it on your cheeks and have pink cheeks. Makeup. I never did get any that you put all over your face. Never did do that. But once I started wearing lipstick, thanks to Aunt Mary, I never quit. And that's mainly what I wear now, lipstick. And I always had a pale complexion. I could never get a suntan. Well, let me finish with Aunt Mary. So when Aunt Mary was 16, 17 years old, my grandmother, her mother, the doctor said, you will only be maybe another month or two. You have an enlarged heart, and I'm sorry we can't save you. So, you're going to die. And so Grandma couldn't get around anymore, and she was 58 years old. So she took to her bed and waited for death to take her, and it did. And I was 12 years old. And of course, she had spoiled me so much that I grieved over her so bad that I practically had a nervous breakdown because I loved her so much. But Aunt Mary, you know how she solved that problem? She got married. I think she was 16 or 17 years old. Like me, I married at 16 to get out of the house because Mom had all them boys and I was not happy taking care of her kids. I was a mother to them too, and I didn't really want to do that. I hated it. I did not like changing their diapers. So Mary got married, and she married a sailor by the name of Norman. Well, Norman had to go away. He was board ship, and Mary moved to town, and I didn't see her very much. Well, after I got married and moved to town, guess what? Me and Aunt Mary got a job at the same factory, and we worked together. We visited together. Norman was gone. I don't know where, but Buddy was probably working in that bakery where he got fired. But we just had a great time, companionship. And of course, Buddy then joined the Navy too, and he kept coming home. He kept going AWOL. And Norman had got some of his time in, and he was, or had a vacation, or I don't know. But Uncle Norman told Buddy, said, if you don't turn yourself in, I'm going to turn you in. Well, Buddy turned himself in, and finally he was put in the brig in Great Lakes. And that was a trip that I took because I was working at a restaurant at the Bobolink at the time, and me and another little girl by the name of Wanda had a little apartment together, and we worked second shift. She worked at the little restaurant also. And so we would come home when we got off work, and we had a little record player. And back then, jukeboxes was it. Willie Nelson, and some of those other singers, they were hot on the jukebox. And so we made friends with the jukebox man. And what he would do when he would put new records on the jukebox, he would give me and Wanda the old little records. And we just loved it because then we got to play them for free. And we would set up till 1 or 2 o'clock. After we got off work, we worked 3 to 11. And after we got off 11 o'clock, me and her, we didn't have no TV or anything, but we loved music, especially country music. So we'd put Willie Nelson on, and some of those others that was so popular at that time. I don't remember the rest of them, but there was a other one that was real popular too. Willie Nelson is still alive, and he's I think he's a year older than I am, and he's still singing. And did he have a rough life? And he's had so many women I can't keep track of them. But they was telling about it. He had his autobiography on YouTube, and I was looking at it. But now he's settled down with one woman. I think now that he's in his 90s, 91 or 92. I think he's 92. Still going, still going. And here I am, 91, still going, enjoying life one day at a time. So this evening, Aunt Mary was such a blessing. Well, anyhow, I'm going to tell you more about her. She, Norman, as he got older and he came home from the Navy and retired, and he was a cop in Louisville for a few years, and he killed a man. He had to shoot a man one time that drew a gun on him, and he was faster, and he killed the guy. Well, they put him on for a little while, and then they investigated it, and Norman was not at fault. But Norman also, while he was in the Navy, had a ship go out from under him, and he survived. And a lot of people did not, but he was in the Navy. Okay, now, Uncle Norman, when he came home, and as they went along in their married life, and they moved to Louisville and went to Evangel Tabernacle, and that's what led us into the right way to serve the Lord, because Brother Wayman Rogers was the pastor there where they went to church, and he's the one that said to me and to others, you know, if somebody asks you to pray for them, just see if you can take their hand and just pray for them right then and there. And I learned that when I was about 35, and I started practicing it. And and I have seen people so touched. Fact is, one time, you know how I change subjects all the time. I was at the grocery store, and this famous real estate lady, now she's famous. She wasn't so famous then. She was starting out, maybe midways, and now she's buku rich, and I still just love her. She was having trouble, and she knew I with her a man, and he was sick. And she says, "You know, I really need to pray for him. Would you pray for him?" She knew I was a Christian. I said yes, and we was in the bread department, and we just held hands right there and prayed for her man, and God answered. And from then on till now, just well, she's kind of retired, but not completely because she's not as old as I am. She's up there somewhere because I've known her for many years, and if she needs prayer, she's apt to call me up and say, "Would you pray for this, that, or the other?" Of course, it's no trouble to pray, is it? All right, now Aunt Mary was such a blessing. She would help me with my clothes, help me with my lipstick, and such an encourager all through my days. And then she moved. She when Norman passed away, and I was going to tell you, he got prostate cancer, and he was in St. Edward's Hospital, and we was living not too far from there, me and Buddy, before Buddy went in the Navy, or maybe after Buddy got out. But anyhow, I went to the hospital to see Norman, and we talked, and he was in a right relationship, of course, with the Lord, and he passed away very young. So Aunt Mary got married again, and she married a man that was very well to do. So he bought them a double wide trailer in Florida on a with access to a golf club. Could play anytime he wanted, and that was his passion, was to play. So when we went to Florida, me and Aunt Amanda flew down one time, spent a week. We had the greatest time. Me and her sister and me, all three of us together playing games. He had passed away, and so we just had a good time. And she had this big old beautiful double wide, and that's where she passed away. We after I came back, we kept in touch on the phone. I didn't get to see her much, but we always stayed on the phone and talked a lot. And that week, before she passed away, she was 90, she said, I feel like I'm going to be going soon. I said, oh no, you'll be fine. You know, you don't want to hear that. Or I didn't want to hear it. And I didn't speak to her again. I said, the Lord be with you. And He was. And He took her out of there. And I've told it, y'all know about it. Her daughter Marlita moved in with her in the later years. And she said, take me to the hospital, Marlita. And so Marlita took the hospital. And as Marlita was filling out papers, and Mary was in the back with the doctor came out and said, she passed. She passed away. Just like that, she just went to sleep and went on to be with the Lord. Marlita said, passed? And that was about a week after I had spoke with her. You know, the Lord is good to His children sometimes, and He was very kind to Aunt Mary. And I'm praying when my time comes that He'll be right there holding my hand like He did for Aunt Mary and my mom. You know, the Holy Spirit walks with us now and helps us. It leads, guides, and directs us in the path we should go. If you pray about it, the Lord tells you. The Lord, you know what's good and bad. And if you know the Lord, you know what path to take. This morning when James left, don't you like these little earrings? I just found them this morning. Cute. Dingle dangle. So I told James, I said, he kissed me bye. And I said, honey, I love you so much. He said, I love you too. We are so blessed to have each other and be in good health. And he was on his way to Sellersburg, where I am not going till he takes me out there. When he gets it done, then I'm going to try to do a video. But he's cut so many bushes and did so much stuff. And we'll see what happens. Life goes on for us that are still here. And so follow the Lord and enjoy it. And I enjoyed my coffee. And let's see, I think it's still warm. I'm going to review this video and see if it's okay. And if it's alrighty, I'll publish it so y'all walk that path where Jesus would be pleased with you. He will direct your path if you know Him. Love you. Bye-bye.